knew it was never meant to be there. The P-51 Mustang lurched across the wet English tarmac before dawn, its propeller biting into fog as if trying to tear the morning apart. Mechanics froze mid-step. A senior officer whispered something that sounded like a prayer. Someone else muttered, "That thing is illegal." Captain Elliot Mercer sat in the cockpit, gloved hands steady, jaw tight. He had heard the word illegal all week, spoken in briefings, whispered in corners, hissed through clenched teeth. It followed him like a shadow. But this morning, with the Merlin-based hybrid engine growling beneath him, the word meant nothing. What mattered was altitude, speed, survival. Months earlier, the Mustang had been an escort fighter with promise, but also limitations. Against piston-driven German aircraft, it excelled. Against the future, Germany's new jet fighters, it was obsolete before it even took off. Or so everyone believed. Mercer hadn't believed it. He remembered the first briefing, where jets were mentioned. The room had gone quiet as intelligence photos were passed around, blurred images of Me-262s, twin engines slung under swept wings like weapons from another era. Faster than anything in the Allied inventory. Untouchable. Deadly. The brass called them unstoppable. Mercer called them a challenge. It started with a question no one wanted to answer. What if the Mustang could be pushed beyond its limits? What if its heart, the engine, could be reshaped, refined, overclocked in a way doctrine forbade? The answer lived in a hangar no one was supposed to use. Working with a small, unofficial team, an RAF engineer with a bad limp, an American test mechanic who'd been kicked out of right field, and one quiet metallurgist who never gave his real name, Mercer helped assemble something unprecedented. They modified boost limits, reinforced crankshafts, altered fuel mixtures, pushed tolerances past what regulations allowed. It worked. Too well. The first test run shattered instruments. The second melted exhaust shielding. By the third, the aircraft achieved speeds the books said were impossible without catastrophic failure. That was when the command found out. Grounded. Threatened. Officially banned. The engine was labeled unsafe. Non-compliant. Illegal. And then German jets began tearing Allied bombers out of the sky. So now, before sunrise, with orders half rescinded and conditions attached, Mercer rolled down the runway knowing one thing. If this engine failed, he'd die. If it succeeded, it would rewrite the war in the air. The ban came in writing, cold, precise, absolute. Mercer stood in the briefing hut as the paper was read aloud. Unauthorized modifications. Violation of engine boost regulations. Risk to aircrew and material. The aircraft was grounded indefinitely. No one met his eyes. Outside, the Mustang sat silent, its skin still warm from last night's tests. Mercer felt like he'd been told to abandon a living thing. That night, the news arrived from Germany. A bomber formation over the Rhine had been mauled. Escorts never even saw what hit them. Survivors reported silver shapes streaking through the formation. Too fast to track, too fast to chase. Jets. The next morning, Mercer was summoned again. Same room. Different tone. The ban wasn't lifted. It was ignored. He was told to fly, but not to log the engine data. Not to discuss modifications. If the aircraft crashed, the report would blame pilot error. He accepted without hesitation. Up there, alone above the clouds, Mercer felt the difference immediately. The Mustang climbed like it had shed gravity itself. At altitude, he pushed the throttle past the red line, past safety. The engine roared. And then movement. A flash of silver below. Twin engines. Swept wings. A German jet. Mercer dove. The Mustang accelerated, not gradually but violently. The airframe shook. Warning lights flared and died. The gap closed. The jet pilot saw him too late. For one impossible moment, the piston and jet flew side by side, past 500 miles per hour, before Mercer pulled the trigger. The jet vanished in flames. When Mercer landed, the ground crew stared at him as if he'd returned from the dead. No one spoke, because now the unthinkable had happened. The illegal engine had outrun the future. Confirmation brought fear, not celebration. Intelligence officers demanded details. Engineers demanded numbers. Command demanded silence. Mercer gave them altitude charts, fuel burn rates, thermal tolerances, everything except the truth that mattered most. The engine wasn't safe. It was a calculated risk, one that could only be flown by pilots willing to ride the edge of destruction. Germany responded quickly. Jet patrols changed patterns. Ambush tactics evolved. The air war accelerated into something sharper, faster, more lethal. Mercer flew every day. Each sortie felt like theft, stealing seconds from physics, stealing victory from inevitability. He watched friends die in slower aircraft. Watched jets escape when his engine ran too hot to pursue. The Mustang became a rumor. The jet chaser. The outlaw engine. And rumors don't stay hidden long. Berlin noticed. The intercept order came just after noon. High altitude. Fast movers. No escort. Mercer climbed into a sky stripped bare by winter wind. The engine screamed as he pushed it harder than ever before. Then he saw it, one jet, climbing, confident, untouchable. Mercer went after it. By the way, if you're gripping this moment with me, holding your breath as the distance closes, make sure to subscribe. Because what comes next changed aviation history forever. The Mustang surged. They raced, two philosophies of flight locked together. Jet versus piston. Future versus defiance. The jet pilot tried to outrun him. Couldn't. Mercer closed the gap inch by inch until the jet filled his canopy. One burst. The jet disintegrated. Silence followed. When Mercer landed, command finally understood. They hadn't broken the rules. They'd broken the timeline. The engine was never approved. Officially, it never existed. Mercer was reassigned. The team dispersed. Documents vanished into locked cabinets. But the lesson remained. Speed mattered. Adaptation mattered. And sometimes progress arrived labeled illegal. The war ended before the engine could be replicated. The jets took over anyway. Mercer watched from the ground as a new era lifted off without him. He never spoke publicly about what he'd flown. I didn't need to. He'd seen the moment history blinked. Decades later, a museum display shows a Mustang engine with no plaque. Just a note, experimental configuration. Combat performance classified. But those who know. Because once, against orders and odds, a piston engine outran a jet. And the sky was never the same.